All right, so we're going to take a look at the 7.2 homework, solving the inequalities using your sign pattern. Don't forget, vertical asymptotes and points of exclusion do belong on our sign patterns. Signs usually change over a vertical asymptote and rarely, if ever, change over a point of exclusion. All right, so the first one, already in factored form, or no, pardon me, the first one, they gave us the sign pattern. Remember, if the value on the right is negative, we need to put a negative in front of our fraction. If the value on the right were positive, we wouldn't put anything there. It's telling us that the solution involves the values between -1 and 4 without brackets, so that's going to tell me that I just need a greater than 0. And since I've got a 0 at 4, I know that I need x minus 4 in my numerator. A vertical asymptote at -1 tells me I need a x plus 1 in my denominator. Number 2, the solution set is the values that are positive. We have a bracket on 0. Remember, we can't put a bracket on our vertical asymptote, so that tells me I need a greater than or equal to 0. Again, notice that it's negative on the right side, pardon me, so I need a negative in front of my fraction. And then I look, since I have a 0 at 0, I have an x in my numerator. The negative root 2 and positive root 2 means that I must have had an x squared minus 2 in my denominator. Number 4, again, it's focusing on the positive values, and then it includes 0, so that tells me I need a greater than or equal to 0. Again, I can't have, sorry, there's a mistake here, I can't have brackets on my vertical asymptotes. Since I have a vertical asymptote at -5 and +5, I must have had x squared minus 25 in my denominator. Since I have a 0 in my denominator, I know that I have, a 0 as a 0, I know that I need x in my numerator. But notice the sign didn't change, so that tells me I have to have some kind of even power on that variable, x squared, x to the 4th, etc. All right, number 7. So I factored number 7 into x plus 3 and x minus 1. Nothing in the numerator overlaps with anything in the denominator, so I know I do not have any points of exclusion. I've got zeros at -3 and 1 because of my numerator x plus 3, x minus 1. A vertical asymptote at -1 because of my denominator x plus 1. And since I'm looking for values that are less than or equal to 0, I'm going to focus on the negative parts of my sign pattern. So that's -infinity up until and including -3. And then -1, not including it because it's a vertical asymptote, up until 1, but I include the 1 because that was a 0. Number 8, factored my denominator to begin with. Nothing in the numerator overlaps with anything in the denominator, so I know I don't have any points of exclusion. X minus 3 is going to get me the 0, 3. My denominator, x plus 4 and x minus 1, is going to get me my vertical asymptotes at -4 and 1. I test values to make my sign pattern. And since I'm looking for positive values, I know I'm looking for positive values because I have greater than 0, I'm going to focus on -4 to 1, 3 to infinity. And again, I do not use brackets on anything this time because it was only greater than 0. It wasn't greater than or equal to 0. Now, 11 is a little bit time-consuming, not necessarily tricky. First thing I have to do is move my 8x over x squared minus 6x plus 5 to the other side by subtracting it. At the same time, I factored my denominators so that I can figure out what I need for a common denominator. In my first fraction, I would need to multiply by x minus 5, since that's missing from the common denominator. In my second fraction, I would have to multiply by my x plus 2, since that's missing in that denominator. So I multiplied out x minus 5 times x minus 7. I've distributed -8x to get -8x squared minus 16x. Combine like terms. Factored out -7 because I felt like that was going to make it easier for me to factor. And then I factored my trinomial. So I've got zeros at -5 and, a 0 and a POE, at -5 and at 1, since these two overlap in the numerator and denominator. I've got a vertical asymptote at 5 and a vertical asymptote at -2. Tested values to come up with my sign pattern. Now, since this is less than 0, I'm going to focus on my negative values. And since it's less than and not less than or equal to, I know that I'm not going to need any brackets in my answer. All right, hopefully that helps. If you have questions or concerns, feel free to bring them up in class.